Shit, I'm hitting record then.
And I
Record.
think I've got that option too over here. So,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I got two things going. I got the QuickTime screen share,
oh, cool.
and yeah, I don't
That
know.
should work just fine.
Do what?
That should work just fine, I think.
Yeah, I got this and this, so I got backup, backup. That's been my biggest rule lately, dude. Is never not have a backup plan.
Right.
Like, I thought it
Well, a
was
lot of
important.
people are feeling the sting of that right now. That's for sure.
No doubt, dude. It's been pretty crazy. I mean, what's life like over there?
I mean, it's strained for sure.
Cool.
Um, in terms of my steady gigs, I mean, I normally have 5 nights a week that I play,
Yeah.
and now it's down to two, if that.
Oh man. Yeah, I got
Um,
right now, dude.
Yeah. So, and other than that, I mean, I've been doing the live streams on Facebook. I've made a couple bucks here and there. Doesn't necessarily replace,
No
you
way.
know, the money I'm making on gigs, but it's something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you thought it was hard to get tips before on the internet. But
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, honestly, the first two times I did much better than like, because the couple days I did it like 2 or 3 times. I'll probably do it once or twice again today
yeah, I
too.
was noticing you're going like 3 times a day. I was like, that's just like amazing, dude. Like
I
you're
mean, I guess, I kind of look at it as like sets on a gig because I'll go live for about an hour, which is, the equivalent of a set usually on a gig. So,
yeah. Yeah, and I feel like your stream kind of dies after that anyways, from my experience. If you're on there for more than an hour, everyone's like, oh, I already seen it or whatever.
yeah, I mean, it goes from, in my case, it goes from 20 or 30 something viewers down to like 7. So, I don't know if Facebook just buries it after a certain amount of time or what the algorithms are like for that. But yeah, I mean, it's something, like I said. And I mean, it's, once it's over, you can, post it and it'll be viewable forever to
Yeah.
whoever wants to watch it.
Yeah, dude, I'm in Colorado, so it's like, I mean, first off, it just started snowing like crazy yesterday.
Did
So
it?
blizzard,
Yeah.
white out, I don't know. I was going to teach this old lady yesterday. Got to play a 1959 original Gretsch with the Supro that it came with,
Wow.
and
Okay.
it's on my Instagram. I think I posted on my Facebook too.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
for whatever reason, they're not synced right now. I don't know what all that mess is about, but dude, it was super cool. Got to play. She had like all these old Prince records. Got to listen to some Ry Cooder. Like never hear any of that, and I don't know, man. It was just like going back in time,
Yeah.
and like her power went out while we were there, and I was like, thank God I played piano.
That's cool, man.
It's like, yeah, I don't know what we would have done. We were just kind of sitting there, and but man, I mean, in times like this, it was like amazing to make the $50 and get some food, and just have a good time and listen to some records and just spread some knowledge. But I mean, that was the last thing I did since Saturday,
Yeah.
and I played a gig on Saturday, and basically was like, this is probably it, you guys. Like, chug a lug and let's play some tunes because we ain't gonna be back here for a minute. And
Yeah, that was same for me too. I mean, Saturday was the last gig I did too, and
yeah,
I mean, I'm still hopeful. I mean, I don't feel panicked or anything. It's just I'm a little on edge, which is understandable because a lot of guys in our line of work is just they're all getting gutted right now. But
no doubt, no
but
doubt.
I do feel like I mean, we're gonna turn a corner much sooner than
Yeah,
people are projecting. You know?
well, and I really hope this will just be like a wake up call, and
Mhm.
people are just gonna be like, oh, well, we should have been prepared for this. For me personally, it's like, I mean, exactly what you're saying is like, dude, I put all of my energy into gigs. I stopped teaching lessons. I know we had talked about that before, that you had stopped teaching because you were like, I got all these gigs, and like, yeah, I just totally stopped teaching. I was like playing pretty much solo, maybe duo. Sometimes I bring the band. I mean, kind of like you. It's like not every time that I play, am I playing with the band or whatever.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I mean, 100% of my income. I started kind of doing a little bit of the YouTube thing, and then I just got distracted, and I just had too much stuff on my plate.
Right.
And then I sold out of CDs. I never got more. I sold out of T-shirts. Never got more. you know, and it
Hmm.
was just but now it's like, dude, those are the things that you need. You need to have a YouTube channel. You need to have T-shirts. You need to have students, and you need to be like capable of doing this kind of stuff. And man, I was just like blindsided. I was like, holy hell, I have
Yeah.
like nothing, dude. I'm I mean, it was just a wake-up call in general for so many other things too, though. But
Hmm.
just on like the professional, like not even the booking or the networking or any of that. It's like none of that even matters right now. So
I've had some some clients like ask for their deposits back on some of the gigs that I'd booked, and
that's like what contracts are for, though.
yeah, and I had the contract, and there was no clause in there. It's like, this deposit's refundable or not refundable, and
Yeah,
50% up front. It's like, sorry. I mean, where do you expect me to get the money from right now? So,
yeah.
um, but so I mean, I haven't had any real points of contention there. I mean, there was one client who was pretty adamant about like, please consider giving me the money back. I was like, well, let's hold off until we can reschedule this. How about that?
Yeah.
And so they kind of backed off after that. So
Man, yesterday Mark Lettieri went on with Yannick Gwizdala on his podcast, and I mean, really just got me going on this whole thing. But yeah, they were talking about in there like kind of a fear that I had thought too is like, once all this is over, does it either just get canceled, does it get postponed, or like will third option be it's like everything basically just gets forgotten about, and then everyone's going to be like swarming for the venues, you know? And
well,
not sure.
no, I mean, we're going to see a big resurgence for sure. And I think maybe this is, well, I don't know. I mean, I think people are going to gain a newfound appreciation for people like you and me, really. I mean, if
Yeah,
there's no live music, there's no art out there other than, checking in on live streams that everybody from guys
dude.
like me to guys like, Chris Thiele are doing.
I know, yeah. Like I watched like John Mayer and John Legend at the same time the other day.
Oh,
I was like, what?
yeah.
Like I can't even go
Sign of
on
the
now because
times,
I
man.
have like 30K,
Mhm.
like just to watch right now. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting thing. I guess a question that I'm asking myself that I'd like to ask you is, you know, going back to the gig thing, I felt like everything I was doing was for the gigs. Like my inspiration, like my drive, like my work ethic. I was like, I'm working on these songs. I'm working on writing these charts for this instrument that's playing with me, or so and so asked to come sit in, so I need to learn these tunes or whatever. And that was just like all of my focus. And even kind of like when I was writing tunes, it was like, oh, dude, this would be a great song to play live.
Yeah. Hmm.
Or learning covers or whatever. It's just like this is the tune that people would dig.
Yeah.
And it's like now that there's no people, I'm just like really having to like contemplate my inspiration. And do you find yourself thinking that too? You're like, damn, like I gotta make art for art's sake again. Like, what you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, for a lot of years, for me, it is art for art's sake. I don't think that's ever really gone away. But it's become so much more about keeping the lights on, keeping my kids fed.
For sure,
Um,
for sure.
and because that's what I do. I mean, that's my job too. But yeah, I mean, and as far as like feeling less motivated, I mean, I'm a little discouraged that I don't get to go out and play for people and meet people and like work the tables and all that fun stuff that comes with
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
in restaurants. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I've got this time. Um,
That's how I feel.
Let me learn some more tunes. Let me like maybe write a little bit more. Um, and so and I get a lot of feedback from the live streams on tunes that people want to hear me play, and they'll be like, hey, I think this would work really well with your style and that kind of stuff. And so I've got this like scroll of to do to learn lists
Sure.
that I,
Yeah, I
that I
started
put
working on it.
together. I'm sure everybody's got one of those, but yeah, I mean, just kind of chipping away at that, and just spending time, just spending time with the guitar, just so I don't
Yeah.
go insane. That's a big part of it.
I mean, we've had mental health conversations in the past, and I was like just sitting here like I was 2 days ago now, I guess, and I was just like, fuck, dude. Like, I'm gonna go crazy if I
Yeah.
don't be productive with this time. Like me specifically. Like I'm sure other people are much more sound, but like outside
Well,
of losing my job, outside of like, I don't know, just the regular stresses of everyday money and life and crisis right now, it's just like even if none of that mattered and it wasn't happening and the only thing I was doing was just sitting in bed, I would just go crazy. And
yeah,
like,
I agree.
dude, I gotta be productive with this time and I wanna, talk to all these people. Like, dude, I'm getting Tony Campanovo and Thomas Griggs and Zach Jones and like
Okay, good.
Braxton Cook and like, all these like serious dudes that really I just want to take lessons from. And
Yeah.
like, like dude, like I just want to, just get this going, dude. Like get some great people who are like suffering and like people I respect and who really deserve the credit. It's like you, especially. It's like, man, like I honestly don't know anybody that plays seven string. And I mean, you're saying this like, dude, you're making your whole living off just playing guitar. And it's like there's like none of us out there anymore. It's incredible. But
There's fewer and fewer, I think, and people who were
sure,
building their careers in the '90s. I mean, if you talk to somebody like Jake Reichart, I
yeah.
mean, he was killing it back in the '90s,
Sure.
and
I
he
should get him
still,
I should get him on. I've been following that dude for years, and it's
yeah,
like
he's great, man.
even you, dude. I was thinking about that before, like, while I was getting ready. I was like, how long have I been following you? Like probably like almost 5 years or something. Honestly, like I mean,
Well, with Jake, I think it goes all the way back to like 2010. So I've been following his stuff for at least 10 years, and he'll be the first to admit that I've stolen a lot of ideas from him. But but yeah, I mean, we're friends, and actually, you mentioned Zach Jones, man. He's a friend of mine too, and I don't know if you caught any of that stuff that we did. Like Jake and Zach came to Jacksonville,
I saw that.
and we got to do some of that together. And I think that's another thing about this day and age. I mean, a lot of people are connected that would have otherwise never heard of each other, you know.
True that, man.
And and we've been building a rapport and a friendship over all these years now, and it's a really cool thing, and I think a lot of us, like in my case, I mean, I am still very grateful that I have platforms like Facebook and YouTube to sort of
Sure.
reach other people, and still make a couple bucks on the side. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really the name of the game. I mean, as anti-artist as that seems, like that's
I'd be dead without Facebook right now. I mean,
what's
that's
that?
I would be dead without Facebook right now. I would be
Yeah.
making no money. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
like literally savage, dude. I'm like messaging everyone on Messenger, like individually, like, please take lessons from me. Like,
Mhm.
whatever you can pay, if it's $10 or if it's $100, just whatever, dude. And I don't even care about the time really because I have all the time right now. So,
Mhm.
like, 30 minutes, 3 hours, whatever you want, dude. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I feel that it's very interesting. But I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful that there are so many people like you and Zach and Jake that are just like monsters, and they're just like, yeah, dude, I'll just come talk guitar and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all I really want in general. But yeah,
Well,
I don't know.
it's
It's
really cool that you're doing this, man. And I think it, aside from our own self-promotive, efforts, it's cool that you're creating this and kind of giving people a different perspective. And like the interview format, I've always enjoyed that. So yeah, I appreciate you for doing this, man.
dude, of course, you deserve it, like I said. But yeah, man. I mean, on that note, I just kind of want to talk about guitar in general. Like,
I got some of those back here.
yeah, what's I mean, what in general made you switch to seven string besides just like the obvious, like I could play lower?
Yeah, well, that's kind of it in a sense. For a long time, I'd say, really since I started playing jazz, playing solo gigs and especially duo gigs where I'm accompanying a vocalist or a horn player or whatever,
Yeah,
it just made sense, and my whole thing, and this is, I think a lot of guitar players, especially solo guitar players, their whole approach is to try and sound like the whole band on one
really,
instrument. So why not expand the range a little bit,
yeah, true.
And
I mean, I started playing baritone whenever I don't know that whole Mark Lettieri thing happened, and I
yeah,
do that on my regular gigs like all the time because I'm like, oh man, I can play A or B or C or whatever, and I don't really need a bass player if I can't find one, you know? If I could do the math in my head, like what note or chord I'm playing, then it's like, yeah, it's easy, and then no one really notices. So,
Yeah, no, I mean we're losing bass player friends left and right. I'm sure,
yeah,
but
I only have one, and he's my guy, Jordan Smith.
okay, there you go, there you go. Yeah,
Uh, you know, what about you? Do you play with bass players very much? Like, do you bring
yeah.
this?
I mean, with when I do small group gigs, definitely there's I've got a go-to bass player named Billy Thornton. He lives in Atlanta now, but
Okay.
it's kind of been like a big brother to me for the past 15 years or so, and
Wow.
so like when I do gigs at the Blue Jay, I don't know if you ever saw any of those
Mhm.
clips or anything, but
Nice room, dude.
it's my favorite venue, man.
Yeah.
Of all the venues I've ever played, it's my favorite venue.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Billy's great. If he's not available, there's a few guys in Jacksonville who I can choose from who I know will get it done.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, the last time I played like a duo gig with a bass player, it's been a minute.
That's like my favorite thing to do. That or cello. My
Mhm.
girlfriend plays cello, which is like basically a bass. It's like
Yeah. Mhm.
E of an A string. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just like, dude, I like it, but I also, kind of came from the school of like, don't play the root.
Yeah.
Like you're playing in big band right now. Like
Right. Right.
it was like, I don't know, kind of different, I guess. And so I like it, but and then, I also do a lot of looping too. So I'm like, when I'm playing solo, but it was more a necessity because I didn't feel confident. But now I think I could do it. Like,
Yeah, no, I think well with solo stuff, I guess I come from such a strong like Joe Pass and Tuck Andrews and
word
especially lately a Charlie Hunter kind of approach that I
monster.
don't use a looper, and that's not necessarily out of like I'm too good to use one or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's more just like
Different thing.
I'm afraid. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. It's not like I've
Word.
tried and failed. I just
Hmm.
I feel like that's a whole nother instrument to learn in a sense.
It is, dude. Yeah, I mean, talking about Mark Lettieri and people like that, like those guys are monsters with the loopers. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if you bring the pedal board and stuff, or like you have the eight string. Like I just octave pedal too. That's kind of my thing. Where
Cool.
I'm just like, I won't bring the baritone. I'll just whatever, bring my pitchfork or something, and just like, go bass. And it's definitely a different thing. I don't even know. Yeah, the timing is like hard, and
Mhm.
I don't think any of my shit is. Hold on. I got this guy, but
Oh, that's the yeah, the boss. Sure.
it's got the XLR on here, and like, dude, I mean, this is by no means am I talking shit. It's just like an observation, but like you're talking about, you said you live in Jacksonville.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know how you had like like a whatever, like a roster of players. There's
Yeah.
really no one in Colorado, like unless you go to like Denver, and then it's like everyone's already taken,
Mhm.
and and I just can't talk shit, but it's like they're like, I'll do a gig for $300, and it's like, dude, my whole gig pays like $300, So then it kind of like is like, there's no way I could like, even think of doing that or humoring it. And but yeah, it's just like so interesting that you say that because like I remember Texas being like that. It was like, oh shit, I can't find whoever. It's like, oh, I have like 12 people I could call who would do the job just as well.
Sure.
And that's just kind of like an interesting thing that you say that because like I definitely don't have that. And then like on top of it, it's like especially when I first got to Colorado, I was playing so many outside gigs because it was just like the time of the year, and no one had a PA system. Like no one rolled with their own sound equipment, and I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I played
Mhm.
a lot of just like really kind of straight up instrumental gigs out of necessity, not and then like people were like trying to get me to find singers, and I was joining other people's bands, but once I started doing my own thing, I got the looper. I was doing the ditto thing, and I was like singing through like a wedge, and I don't know, it was just like kind of a lot of stuff to keep track of, and I wasn't like a super good mixer or anything like that. So I was like, I want to get this looper that I can like put a microphone on because I was playing like a lot of other instruments like saxophone and I don't know, just trying to do a bunch of stuff at once. So I was like, well, if I have a microphone on here, then I could like beatbox or like loop my voice or keyboard or whatever. and kind of just like, say fuck you to this, to whoever, and be like, I have my own rig and I can control everything, and I don't, if there's no PA, like no problem. I don't even, need to worry about that. I just bring my amp and just plug it straight in and just like run my vocals out of my guitar amp, which is kind of ghetto, but like, and
Well, I
and
can identify with that, man. I mean, having that whole, I mean, it's liberating, being kind of like just the one. I mean, it's liberating, but it's also kind of like terrifying, because you don't have anybody to blame, but at the same time, you don't have anybody that you have to, you know,
yeah,
rely on. I mean, for lack of a better term, but so yeah, I mean, it gets your own sort of like, it gets those chops really in shape. In other words, like just having everything on your shoulders. So
dude, for sure. Yeah, it's been an interesting game for sure. I remember I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, when was the first time I really played my first solo gig? And I remember it was like almost 2 years ago.
okay.
When I first moved here, my whole band like canceled on me simultaneously, and it was
Oh,
like my bass player singer like was just like, hey, like family emergency, had to go back to Kentucky yesterday. And then like the other guy drummer was like ended up going to Chicago for Christmas or something like that. And then the other kid got sick, and I was like, what in the world? So I got to play this gig by myself now, or I just cancel. But like they thought they were gonna have the band. I just didn't tell them that the band
oh,
canceled, and they didn't really care. It was
right,
like I knew them. I guess that was like a safer bet too. Like I had played probably like 10 times or something. Like
right,
probably wasn't gonna be like strange. It would be strange, but it wasn't gonna be like what, or they
right.
could have asked me or communicated or something. I don't know, but yeah, I just rolled up, played the whole gig solo, and I was like, that actually worked. Like, and I pretty much never went back. I mean, other than like when people specifically ask, can you bring the band now? I'm like, sure, but
Well, yeah, that was
what was your
more or less my experience too. I mean, well, I love how I don't know if you heard the Joe Pass story, but I think he was playing at like the North Sea Jazz Festival or something like that, and this was before. It was a pretty big jazz festival. I think George Wein had something to do with planning it or organizing it, and Joe was only playing with groups at that point. And I think it was something similar, like the band canceled or something. And George was just like, "Well, Joe, just go out on stage and just start playing." He's like, "Yeah, okay," you know. And thus began like the most incredible solo jazz guitar career in history. But yeah, I think with me, I had been listening to Joe Pass pretty much right out of the gate when I was 17 and started really checking out jazz. This was 20 years ago now, and started learning how to do like the walking bass line with the chords and everything. And so the first solo gig I had, I want to say it was at a restaurant in Gainesville, and I remember it was a brunch
yeah,
gig, and the deal was I was going to make $50, which unfortunately was kind of like the go-to rate in Gainesville at the time, and there weren't a whole lot of people who showed up. But then after I had finished playing for the 3 hours, go to the owner. He's like, "Well, how's 35 sound?" I was like,
uh
"Dude, that's not the same as 50. I'll take the 50." And I mean, I stood my ground, and it was more general principle than it was like hanging on to the gig. So he paid me the $50 and didn't call me again.
yeah.
So
Man, I get that a lot. I've noticed that too. Where if you bitch about the money, you're definitely not getting called back. And
well,
it's kind of like where are you at that moment though? Like is it worth it to never play this game again? And I really need the $50, or is
yeah.
it like, it depends. I've been in both positions.
And I stuck around Gainesville for a while until I really realized. I mean, I was single; I didn't have a family back then, but still, and the living expenses weren't that bad in Gainesville. But I had a steady Wednesday I was playing. It was an outdoor gig, even
Right.
when it was super hot or super cold. And I was making like $65 plus tips and a meal, which by
It's not bad.
Gainesville standards was not that bad at the time. But the more I realized that it's a college town and people are just constantly
Oh,
lowering the bar and underbidding the market, that I couldn't make a living there.
hmm.
So
That's an interesting point. I kind of need to hear that right now.
yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I would say it's through no fault of their own when they do that, but it kind of is. And I'm like,
You should be aware. of what you're doing to
You
the
should
scene.
absolutely be aware because you're ruining it for everybody who's trying to make a living. Especially
Yeah,
when it's like the hobby musicians or not hobby musicians, but you know what I mean? People who already have like income in place. They're just
true.
like, well, I just want to play. It's like, well,
Yeah,
if you just want to play, go to the open mic, man.
yeah,
Like go to the jam sessions. Don't try and create a gig and just make like $30 and a couple glasses of wine or whatever. That kills it for everybody
yeah.
else.
True, true.
And a lot of what keeps people from doing that, from charging, what they should charge, is they don't believe enough in themselves. They think they're not good enough or they're not well known enough. And it's like, no, that absolutely has nothing to do with it.
One of
You know?
my favorite things I've ever seen you post on Facebook was you were talking about how you lost a gig because you were charging too much, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Fuck yeah, dude!" Like,
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
no, dude, everyone's like, "Can you do $100?" And it's like, dude, we need $100 per person per hour, dog.
Mhm.
Like, that's bare minimum, and that's still not even enough. And that's horrible. That's not enough, but it's the truth. I mean, when I don't know about you, but my monthly expenses are like $2,400, and it's like that means I would have to play 24 gigs for $100. Like,
Mhm.
dude, that's like, like life threatening. Like, if you're playing, 4 or 5 hour sets like every day, basically, and you're just like, all right, let's go, let's do it. I mean, it's possible, but it's like no one wants to
Right.
do that for just to scrape by at that. I'll
Mhm.
say it like that. Where
It's a
it's like
grind, man, for sure.
a lot of
And
work, a lot of work.
it is. It is. And I mean, I'm grateful to be in a place now. I mean, all current issues aside, generally speaking, I'm grateful to be in a place where I've got 5 a week and I can take,
Yeah,
Sunday, Monday off, or I could take a nice corporate gig or a wedding gig on a Sunday or Monday and not feel totally burned out. Um,
yeah,
and
burnout.
it's good to have a routine. I mean, it's hard enough to get, a steady gig anywhere.
What's your advice on that? What's your advice on getting a steady gig? I've been recently trying to get one. I have hopefully have one coming up in May.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's all blown over by then. And but yeah, I just been reaching out, kind of being like, I want to play here every week, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and I get a lot of
Sure.
responses about it too.
And I think you're onto something there because it is good to go to a place that doesn't already have live music because that way you can kind of corner the market there, and that can be like your spot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
In my case, like with Ocean 60, that I've had that gig for almost 7 years, and that's been and to be fair, I mean, we started out. They were having live music most nights out of the week there,
mm,
and some cuts had to happen and all that kind of stuff. And I was working with a vocalist there for a while on weekends, and there was one night where he couldn't make it, so it was almost like your solo gig story. Like so I
yeah,
just played the gig solo. Everybody loved it, and like the staff, they were all going to bat for me. Hang on one second.
yeah,
Everybody was all about it, and they were going to bat for me, and they got me a steady Wednesday there, and then I got a steady Tuesday there, and the rest is history. And so I mean, it's like it's perfect. It's 5 minutes away from where I live, and it's a Tuesday and a Wednesday steady gig, which is
yeah.
on traditionally kind of slower nights. I mean, that's definitely a good thing to have. But I mean, in terms of like going cold, what I would do is, and this is what I did with 62 with Ocean 60, is that I was like, okay, how about we do like a trial month,
Mm,
or even just a trial night, see how it goes. Give me a chance here, take a risk, and we'll see how it goes, and just kind of go from there. But beyond all that, I would say instead of just going in cold with business cards, I would go to the venue first and give them some business,
for
you
sure.
know, like buy an appetizer or something,
Yeah,
and
go so far too. Just like, oh my god, order something to go, and
Mhm.
just like shoot the shit. You probably get it instantly.
Yeah, and I think just developing a rapport right off the bat instead of being like, "Hey, here's my card, give me money to play music."
Yeah, yeah,
It doesn't matter how much finesse or how much. I mean, it kind of does, but you get what I'm saying. It's like if that's what you come out of the gate with, then chances are they'll just be like, we're doing fine without you."
yeah, yeah.
Um, but then just creating an opportunity where they can give you a chance and you can give the gig a chance and seeing what happens. I mean, that could be a really good thing. And that's where
Sure.
not just business savvy and having some charisma and personal skills come into play, but I mean that's really where all those hours that all of us put into practicing and learning tunes and just learning our craft can really
Yeah,
that's your time to shine.
true, true. Yeah, it's man, such great advice, honestly. It's like I guess the only other thing I would say that's hard once you get the weekly gig is keeping it because it's like, like you're you're kind of like tainting it every time if you're not like just totally killing it. Like after so many times in a row, they're like, like we're kind of sick of it, or it's like, I feel like at least in my experience, when I get them like in town, like really close, like you're saying, it's like I don't think I've ever kept one for more than like 3 months or something. Like after that, they're like, we're out of money or like something,
Sure.
and then it's like, okay, well, that's fine. We had a long run. I appreciate you letting me play here or whatever, but it's always like that situation never happens if I go like once a month or I'm just like booking a gig with them kind of like reoccurringly or whatever. It's like they're
Yeah.
all, yeah, like please come back. And it's like I don't think, if anything, I'm probably better like when I'm playing at a place more regularly because I'm like comfortable there. And like
Yeah.
I don't know about how you feel about this space thing, but that's such a weird thing for me where it's like I always like so frequently go to a new place I've never been to before. And then I try to just like do my thing there and feel comfortable and like sound normal or whatever that means. And like, just try to not feel like an alien in this weird place. And I try to just like, yeah, make other people feel comfortable too. Cause it's like, I
Sure.
feel like that's kind of my job. I don't know if you feel like that, but like, I'm like
100%.
cleansing the air or something for people. That's kind of a weird way to say it. But
Well, yeah, it is, and I mean, well, it's not a weird thing, weird way to say it, but I get what you mean because I feel the same way. It's about bringing joy to other people, and it's not about my ultra dominant licks. It's about like playing something that people can feel and connect with. And I mean that's just comes down to like one of the most basic primal purposes of music. But in terms of like hanging on to a steady gig, there's a lot of things that we can do. Uh, Ultimately we're at the mercy of the venue, you know um, at the end of the day that's really what it comes down to, but we can do a lot of things to kind of keep a strong foundation. I mean, for me it's learning new tunes all the time. That's a big
I try to go 4 a week if I'm playing a new place. And it's like at least, and that's still not even enough. I
And I
mean,
mean, I keep a list, and I haven't counted in a long time, but it's kind of a dummy list of more pop tunes
yeah,
that people are gonna recognize. I mean, in terms of jazz standards, I mean, it's at a point now where somebody will call a tune, I'll be like, sure, let's play it.
yeah,
Not that I know every jazz standard in the book. I mean, if somebody calls like a heavier like Benny Golson tune or something like that, I don't know all of his
or
tunes.
some shit. Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be a challenge, but most tunes I can kind of ear my way through. But anyway, back to you know the the dummy pop list. I mean, this is just, and I'm not saying this to gloat, but I mean, this is
Wow,
where it starts.
wow. Yeah, yeah.
We're all
I got a little one.
kind
But yeah,
of go through.
I always kind of like just have like a brain fart, especially when I like have to think about like tunes or whatever. Like I can't think of any. So like
All
I
the time.
know any songs, but
All the
yeah,
time.
as soon as I look at the list, I'm like, oh, I could play that. So
Yeah, and it's a challenge, man, because I don't want to look unprofessional when I'm up there playing, or even if there's just like two or three people watching me. I don't want to be like
yeah,
doing this songs. But that's another reason why, and it's kind of like a double, like it's a bonus because I encourage requests all the time, and that's a big part of not only making a few extra bucks, but connecting with the audience more, and also not having to think about what's freaking song to play next. Because I know that my rep is pretty large, and but at the same time, after I finish a tune, it's like, oh, I don't know anything, or like I can't think of anything, and
yeah.
so just
Man, I
find
was
a
talking to
boards.
my roommate's girlfriend yesterday, and he's like a DJ, and he was kind of like just playing music in the living room, just going at it, and like, she was like, I'm not into this because there's like 10 or 15 seconds of like lull, and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
like for us, like that, like even just tuning or something, I was like, dude, I'm losing people's attention like crazy.
it's
So
almost like
I feel,
the old, like the cocktail piano players, like back in the day, they'd wear a tux and they'd morph one tune into the next and not stop playing for like an hour at a time. And
true.
I think, I don't quite do that, but when I'm really feeling on point and focused, when it comes to song selection, I'll be thinking towards the end of whatever song I'm playing. It's like, okay, I can do this next.
Yeah, yeah.
or I can do one of these 3 songs next. And a lot of the times I'll finish the song and be like, what was I? I don't remember what song I was thinking of,
Yeah.
but a lot of the time it is cool to just kind of have, like, going into a set, just having like 3 or 4 tunes to base your set off of.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting thing, just like to say. I think it's like I don't know. I expected some sort of like tip your bartender or whatever. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
no, I mean more pocket playing. Like play fucking tunes. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
don't just like dick around and just noodle or something. You know what I mean? I mean
Yeah.
like actually play some tangible shit and like you'll
Mhm.
probably keep the gig. And that's true. I mean, dude, for so long, at least, especially when I got out of school, oh my God, I was just like, I'm going to play quintuplets over everything, and every chord needs to be, sharp 11, 9, 13, and I'm going to play all my Coltrane licks over this song that has no business, with Coltrane in it at all. And
Right.
then, and I was like doing that live, like, I
Mhm.
cannot lie. I was like, oh, dude, this, like, I've been shedding these tunes, and like, I'm going to bust out these licks. And it was, I don't think the music was like bad because I like have some recordings from it and stuff, but it's just like, dude, like my attention span was like all over the place. And like, I was definitely like not as together sounding. And then, now it's like, oh, I'm writing like, way easier songs. I'm playing covers, like, but I'm leaving with like $100 in tips, and it's like before I was getting like $2 or something, and I don't know, man. It's kind of interesting you say that because I noticed that too. It's just like, don't be crazy. Like, just play some simple shit. And I have this really crazy friend. He's like probably 60. The dude, like, straight up has walked like 6 miles to see some of my shows. He doesn't have a car.
Oh,
He
wow.
doesn't have a job. He is like on like whatever, like Social Security, just gets like a check every month.
Sure.
Raging alcoholic. I mean, like, no shame. He would admit it. Like, he's like probably, a pint of whiskey a day plus like 6 beers. And, he's just like, has like no incentive for like anything else. And, but he says some like really like in tune shit sometimes where you're like, you're not even on this planet most of the time. But, anyways, he goes like, just drunk off his ass one day. He's like, dude, like, don't worry about it. Your mistakes are other people's treasures.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was like, dude, that's so true though. Like, I didn't think you were listening to what I was saying, you know? And like, he's like, dude, your mistakes are other people's treasures. And on top of that, like, I'm sure both of us, we just could save the situation so fast and play wrong chord, wrong notes. Like, no one's even gonna notice. But in my head, I'm like, oh, I just ruined everything,
Yeah.
And but that's what people notice, I think, is like when you flub and you like think about it, or like vice versa, like, I'm just not feeling this. But it's like in general, people are probably digging it, and you're the one who's like judging yourself. So
It's weird how like being so studious and being so like borderline obsessive with practicing and learning stuff. I mean, we notice the most minute, subtleties in music, and it's weird how that can, fuck with your perspective so much.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and I mean, kind of on that same note, it was right around the time I finally caved, and started learning pop tunes, started learning like Jack Johnson songs and all that other kind of stuff. And because I was in this miserable bubble of jazz snobbery for so many years that
me too.
and it was right around the time. I mean, I was checking out Wayne Shorter a lot, and I learned Black Nile. I put together a cool solo arrangement of that tune,
Hell
and I
yeah,
was so gung ho about it, man. And I show up to the gig and I played it, and just crickets, man.
even that happens, man.
And it was kind of like a mixture of like, man, fuck these people, and then it's like a really sobering moment where it's just like, man, I wonder if like all these years of practicing jazz and learning this craft has been a waste of time and money, which it wasn't, obviously. I
Yeah,
mean, I learned my instrument a lot more intimately, and I learned the building blocks of music, and learning jazz tunes made learning other tunes a lot easier.
yeah, it's a language for sure.
It is. But in terms of just like harmonic structure, it's like, oh, this Lady Gaga song only has like chords.
Yeah, and you look
Um,
like, you know,
But in which, I mean, initially it was like I felt like that was beneath me, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, let me really get inside this tune and see what I can what I can do, how much I can mess with this without straying too far away from, you know, from the core of the song. And I think people really, really dig that. You know, you know, people love hearing Freebird or whatever. They love calling it anyway. I don't know how many people actually love listening to it, but
That's kind of a joke, but it's still also equally as funny to play back to them.
yeah, yeah, and that's how I get back at people for yelling out Freebird. I play it, but no, there's a lot of ways you can just sort of manipulate the song without straying too far away, and I think that's how the spirit of that music kind of still shines through in playing a lot of the pop music that I play.
Totally, I
You know,
agree.
taking risks and just like, you know, kind of giving a middle finger to the status quo, which I think is what jazz is all about in general. You know,
Especially
like
back.
jazz is pretty punk rock when you think about it. You know, and so
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and I don't know, when you look at all the innovators, when you look at, you know, Charlie Parker and Coltrane and Clifford Brown and Monk especially, they didn't give a fuck, man. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, they were like the original punk rockers, if you ask me. And I
yeah,
don't know. I mean, just kind of back to that point, you know, when you're able to just kind of take a simple song or quote unquote simple song that everybody's so familiar with, and just kind of inject a little like, you know
yeah.
what, I'm gonna mess with this and see
Guitar
what
or
happens.
something, whatever the arrangement or the time or
Hmm.
something. I feel it, dude. That's yeah, make it your own. I mean, if
Yeah,
you're gonna hit it, that's like
exactly,
number one.
exactly.
Yeah, I heard an interesting thing from my brother once. He also plays guitar. Went to North Texas. Kind of more like Latin jazz. He lives in Uruguay now. Like,
Oh,
totally
cool.
just was like, screw the States. I'm gonna go learn the music I want to, you know.
Right, right.
And I don't know. He's interesting, but I remember kind of like having a similar conversation at one point, and I was like really concerned about playing standards and then that I wouldn't be able to give them my own flavor. Like you're saying, like, you know, I didn't have enough knowledge to change the chords or like, you know, really play what else, like other than what was just on the page. I was like, I know this chord and I know where the melody note is, but that's like all I could really do at the time. And I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't know, like if I'm going to be living up to these crazy standards that I hear, like am I going to be able to give it my own twist? And he just goes, whoa, dude, like anytime you play a song you're already making it sound like you. And I was
Yeah.
just like, whoa. So yeah, I don't know, just some like really really kind of like simple thing, but it's like, yeah, dude, like just make it your own and just play it like you and it's gonna sound like you. I don't know, I got so caught up on that when I was younger. I was like really concerned I wasn't going to be doing justice, and I like spent so much time trying to like learn these arrangements and shit, and I don't even think it mattered, you know. In
Well, I
the end,
think I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, no, I don't think it mattered. It's just like you could do whatever you want, and everyone's going to enjoy it. But if you're like tripping out about it and like self-conscious about it, then it's definitely not going to be as good.
With in my case, I mean, especially when I started playing jazz, I was checking out a lot of Charlie Parker, a lot of Joe Pass, and a lot of Wes Montgomery. And
Man,
so, but I decided to kind of settle on one at a time. You know, for lack of a better term, I think Charlie Parker probably and still to this day influenced my jazz playing more than anybody. And
monster.
you know, I was really, yeah, you know, I mean, he's my favorite improviser of music of all time, probably. And
Find the
you
pretty
know,
words.
he really heavily influenced my playing and phrasing and you know, vocabulary and all that good stuff. But like, I still think, you know, however minute it was at the time when I first started playing, I was, you know, 17, 18, 19, and there was still a little bit of like me in there. It wasn't much,
For
but it
sure.
was there. You know, and the more and more I studied that music, and the more I just kind of got to know myself as a person, you know,
Absolutely.
I think the more and more I became unapologetic about like, yeah, you know what, this may not sound traditional or this may not sound, you know, whatever, but at least I've laid out a foundation of knowing what that sounds like, being able to play in an authentic traditional manner, and then just kind of taking like, okay, well, that was them, but this is me, you know.
Yeah. And that's, dude, that's such a huge step. I mean, like, I
It's
don't even
terrifying. It's terrifying, man, you know.
That's the
uh,
biggest leap, though, I think, from like becoming, you know, I don't want to say a chump, but like just playing the music and just practicing it
mhm,
versus like performing it and like,
yeah.
you know, making it unique and playing something that you're proud of too. And like, yeah, missing big. That's funny you say that. It's like just like, I'm just gonna go for it. You know?
I think it's just a matter of overcoming fear and all this like self-deprecating, shit that we put ourselves through as artists but yeah, it's like, I wanted to sound like the Charlie Parker of the guitar. That was my goal. I don't care if I sounded original or not. I wanted to sound like Charlie Parker on the guitar. And people actually, my nickname in college was Guitarly Parker. And I was so proud of that, and like, you know, but then after a while, it was just like, you know what? Like, I didn't live his life, thank God, you know? Um, and, uh, and my personality was probably not, I never met him obviously, but my personality was probably nothing like him. And so then the question became like, okay, well, who am I?
Mm,
You know? And that's when it really just like, I mean, when I was kind of on this narrow trajectory of playing bebop, it then just became like all these different possible avenues I could take. Um, but the more and more I got to learn like who I was as a person, what my personality was, and just how I could inject my personality into the music, it became less about this and more streamlined again.
sure.
And I think the better I got to know myself, the more focused I could be on really developing my own sound.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's what I'm working on right now in general, still to this day, is trying to develop my own sound because,
It never stops,
yeah, I mean, but you see dudes like, Charlie Hunter and Mark Lettieri and, just all these like just crazy dudes you see on the internet and you're like, man, I will never sound like that. Like ever,
But
you know? And they're so good on top of it. Even if I learned, Charlie's tuning and got all of his gear or whatever, I would never sound like that dude. He
right.
plays like nobody. And, same with Mark, same with Zach even. I mean, the dude, like, nobody has the voicings that guy has. You're like, what are you doing? Like, but it sounds beautiful. But it's like, that's just so them. And I'm personally really trying to figure out what is me because I've been, I don't know, trying to like steal shit from other people for so long where it's like,
For
oh, I
sure.
a song like this or this tone or whatever. You know what I mean?
That definitely happens, man. And I think, without straying too far away from like being influenced and being overtly influenced, like
Yeah. I don't
noticeably,
see anything wrong with
I
that.
do the harmonic shit. So most people are like, oh, Lenny Bro or Ted Green or Tommy Mann, oh, it's cool. I'm fine with that, you know?
Yeah.
But at
Those
the
are
same
great
time,
characters, too. You're like, oh wow, what an honor.
yeah, exactly. But at the same time, why listen to a clone when you can listen to the real thing? So that's why I try not to be a clone of any of those guys, and that's why I encourage so many people to set a firm foundation. Try and find somebody who you want to sound like. Focus on doing that for a while, but then like put your own shit into there, because I think the more people play like themselves, the more diverse the music landscape is going to be, and that's what's so beautiful about guitar and just in music in general is everybody's so different.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like Miles was saying, like, it took me a long time to sound like myself,
yeah, yeah,
and
dude. But man, I mean, I've been re-listening to Miles like on the CDs I have, like just going old school. I mean, as old school as I could go, I guess. But like, uh, man, I mean, that dude is like literally pouring his heart out to you. Like, I don't know what he does with that horn, but like, man, there's some lines I'm just like, oh my God, just stab me in the heart, bro.
yeah,
Like, and it's just beautiful shit. And I don't know how he did it, especially with the quality of the gear and the recording and like all that stuff back then. I mean, how are you able to capture like those nuances and still hear them like, you know, I don't know, like 80 years later at least,
didn't
And
matter, man. It didn't
no,
matter the
oh, yeah,
recording
his playing
quality.
is so beautiful. It's so beautiful, on all that stuff. Birth of Cool and on, I'm just like a huge fan of. Like I can't even talk shit about the other stuff, but it's like from there, it's like that's like Miles in my opinion. And it's like, Jesus Christ. But even still, I mean, I had a question from some kid on the live stream yesterday, and he was like, "Who are some good players to transcribe?" Like just coming out the gate.
Yeah,
Because I don't know if you felt like this, but it was like for me, everything was so hard. I was like listening to this shit. I was like, "There's no way I could pick that up by ear. Like even if I slowed it down, I
hmm
couldn't do it at the time." And I was like, "Who are some good people I could listen to?" And then my teacher was like, "Yo, listen to All Blues, Miles Davis. Like the dude's like, burn,
yep,
on out all."
yep.
It's like you could get that, you know, at 50%, even if it takes you note by note, but you know he's like G, you know, like it's
Right.
pretty easy. But like that's like it doesn't even matter. That's still a great solo.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
it's durable and you know, like I could pick it out or whatever. It's like, dude, that's how you play the blues. Like that's what Miles says, you know? And you can't harp on it. Yeah, I don't know. That's funny you bring up Miles. I've been really like kind of digging into him more.
It's
Great.
so
Great.
crazy because you listen to stuff when he was like 18 and playing with Charlie Parker, from the 40s.
So crazy.
And then you fast forward 5-10 years, he's got Birth of the Cool.
Yeah,
Fast forward another 10 years, he's got the quintet with Red Garland and Coltrane
yeah.
and like all the baddest motherfuckers in the world,
Every
and
time.
then
Every time.
Kind of Blue, and then the second quintet, which is probably still my favorite band of all time, with Wayne Shorter and Herbie and Ron and Tony.
There's nothing like that. There's nothing.
And after that, it's like, where do you even go from there? And Miles is like, oh, well, we go here, and Bitches Brew and Silent
Yeah,
Way and all that stuff, And so,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, talk about like probably arguably the most revolutionary musician, definitely in jazz, but, you
For
know,
sure.
just kept reinventing the music.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I would say, just in kind of wrapping that whole topic up is just, find one, maybe two tops when you first start.
Yeah.
Just like what
I
your
agree.
teacher was telling you with Miles, just take something simple. Like you don't need to play like all the hardest bebop licks in the world when you first start, because A, it won't be authentic. Two, it's
For
going to frustrate the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And three, it's it doesn't really get into at the risk of sounding cliche, it doesn't really get in the roots of the music. When you listen to Miles, when you listen to Louis Armstrong, you hear
Another
so
yeah.
much blues in their
Hell
playing.
yeah. Hell
You
yeah.
know?
But that's what it was then. I mean, that's what they
Yeah.
were
Mhm.
anyways, originally. Especially
Exactly.
Lewis. I mean, I remember, in college, I don't remember the tune now, but I remember transcribing something by Louis Armstrong. And I think the only thing I got was like just this one measure that I liked out of it. But I was like, this is the measure. Like he's like, and I'm like, holy shit, Uh, but it's like, dude, that was it for me. I was like, oh, that's his thing. Like even just listening, you can kind of figure out, yeah, what do they do? Like Wes, it's like, oh, he plays with his thumb, he does the octave thing. Miles, like, oh, he likes the minor third and playing the root and not on the one, and
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, it's like you kind of learn everybody's thing. I guess in general, just to wrap it up, my last question for you is what have you been working on, like musically, like specifically guitar, like practicing, like, you know what I mean, exercises, or the crazy shit like the alter dominance or any of that, like, I don't know, just something fun that like just gets you going when you touch the guitar.
Um, I guess really the only thing that I try and do is more of like an active practice, rather. In other words, like on gigs, I'll try and play songs that I've been playing for years, but try and play them differently every time. And I
Yeah,
mean that's kind of a basic principle that I think everybody should follow. But
I do that too. I have no shame in that every time I play a song I try to play it different than the time I played it before.
but
um
but in terms of like actual sitting down and working stuff out, I mean, aside from just learning songs and
yeah,
expanding the repertoire, really just trying to clean up my technique,
yeah,
especially when it comes to playing more fingerstyle stuff, because I hear guys like Tuck and Joe Pass and Charlie, and it's just like, man. Then I listen to myself, and it's like, what's all that string noise? What's all the freaking open strings that I hit by accident? And really slowing things down. But metronome, man, metronome. That's probably the biggest thing, man, because I've always believed, not that I am like the spitting image of this or a walking example of it, because my time is all over the place still. But if people can feel a pulse behind what you're playing,
oh,
that's like
yeah,
rule number one, man.
I agree.
If you're
um
a singer, if you're a freaking piccolo player, that's going to be what people identify with more than anything. Then,
Dude,
like a close second to that would be melody, just authenticity of the melody, and trying to sound like on guitar. I try my best to make the melody just sound like a singer. Um,
yeah, I know you're not a singer per se, but do you
Thank
like
God, man.
kind of hum along what you're playing per se? Like, are you trying to like, I guess the code is like, are you trying to play what you're singing basically?
I try to play what I'm hearing,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
definitely. But yeah, in terms of like singing and playing, if you're talking about like George Benson or John Pizzarelli, I don't really do that. Or if I'm
yeah. Not to the
like,
extent, but like you could just like you always try to make the melody sound like someone was singing it. I guess would be a better.
yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, there are times where I'll be singing it in my head, or even if I'm really feeling it on a gig, I'll start singing like at a low volume along with what I'm
Yeah,
playing,
yeah.
and that'll just force my phrasing to be that much more
Hmm.
vocalist like, you know.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of like any getting down to the nuts and bolts of guitar stuff I'm working on, I mean, I can't really point to anything specific, but
Yeah.
but
Well,
playing with the
just time is
recordings.
like I feel like that's all you got to say, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember got to take a lesson with Jonathan Kreisberg, and
Oh wow.
like
Yeah.
literally like first off, I mean, he would spend like 20 minutes telling me I should transcribe, which like no joke, I should be, especially at that time. I was like not at all. So
Right.
I think he got onto that and was like, "What are you doing?" you know. And then like the other thing I noticed, he was like so manic about his tone. Like it was like literally he'd be talking and then like just like go to his amp and like just change some settings or like just start like greasing his fingers or like rubbing the strings or whatever. It was like something was always wrong with the sound to him, and I was like, wow, uh, he has bad ears or something because I believe it. I was like, dude, he sounds so good, but he was like, it was
Like,
obviously like noticeably bothering him. Like he was kind of like, he would stop talking and then play for a second and then like kind of get back into it. And I was like, whoa,
yeah.
I don't have that much attention to my sound, especially in a new place. Cause we were like in a closet practice room. You know what I mean? It was like,
Right.
this is the worst place to be. It doesn't even matter. Just show me your fingers.
Well, I got to see him. He actually played at the Blue Jay not too long ago,
Really? Such a
and he had this big 15-inch polytone that was more angled like towards him than anything else. And I want to
yeah.
say it was just playing through either a JC 120 or an old deluxe or something. But that stereo sound, he got such a
It was
meaty
on stereo too.
sound out of, like, especially the upper register, man. He got such a fat tone out of that. It's like, yes, that's
Yeah.
he's solved the puzzle. He's cracked the code. But
Yeah.
I can
Dude, I
tell
remember him
he's
asking in
very
school,
focused on
he like pretty much put out like a whatever, like a post too, and was like, anyone in Dallas, like if I need a polytone and I need a Fender Twin. And he was like, those are what I need, and I like almost won't perform without it. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. Because those are not easy to get your hands on. Like those are some really specific sounds. And I
yeah.
mean, I understand definitely when I play with the gear you're comfortable with. But the other thing that he was like super big on, he was like, I spend 70% of my time with the metronome, and
Yeah.
the other 30%, I just play whatever I want and try to sound like the metronome. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God. I maybe at that time, I maybe used the metronome like 10% of the time I practice, like only to practice scales or like reading. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa. So like, if Kreisberg's saying we should be spending 70% of our time on rhythm, I think that's like an acceptable answer.
Well, it's coming from a legitimate source for sure.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I can't even. I'm a chump.
Uh,
So,
well,
dude, I mean,
cool, man.
yeah, in general, I'm gonna work on my time and probably, yeah. I mean, dude, we gotta. I'll try to. If you can send me your Venmo and like your website and like whatever content you want to send me, that would be.
Sure.
I'll just like post it below. I think I'm gonna put this on YouTube. That just
Okay.
seems like the best way. Eventually, I saw Noel Johnson was doing like this Zoom thing, and he was somehow getting the Zoom feed into Facebook Live. But I just am not that technically savvy right now to where I know
Oh,
how to
cool.
like
Okay.
change the video output into Facebook. I don't know. I'm have to ask him about it.
Cool.
But maybe we could do it again and try to go live or something together because I think that would
Sure.
be interesting.
That'd be cool, man. Yeah.
But yeah, in general, I think I'm gonna go Facebook and just upload it as a video and then upload it on YouTube.
Cool.
Just kind of see where it goes. But yeah, dude, just send me your stuff because definitely want people to check you out. And
Cool, cool, man.
it's all about the support right now. And I think dude, I can't even stress enough for people in general, especially today. Bandcamp's going free, and it's like dude, $5 for everyone. Times seven or whatever really makes the day not look as bad.
Yeah.
Buy a cup, buy a T-shirt, donate $1. Or even just subscribe to your channel, like your
Yeah.
Facebook. Like, if you don't
Mhm.
have money, like I don't know. Right now, everything helps. So
Sure.
just let me know what you got, bro. I'll happily share it. But thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure. I hope you have fun going live, and hopefully everything calms down. But dude, let me know if you need anything, and I'm here to help.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me, and I'll see you around the internet for sure. I'll send you all that stuff as soon as
yeah.
I can.
Always a pleasure. Hopefully we can play soon. Peace
I'd
out.
love to. All right, take care, brother.